The Bible said, do not put your trust in men. It's pretty specific. Why? Well, because everybody can be compromised except you. Yeah. If you don't believe in God, then it's pretty messed up because now you only got you to believe in.
Katt Williams is making noise again, and you already know he's not here to play. Remember that Wild Club Shay Shay interview? The one where he went all in on Hollywood's elites, pulling back the curtain on the shady side of showbiz? Well, now he's shifted gears. Instead of taking shots at fellow comics like Steve Harvey or Cedric the Entertainer, he's aiming higher, at Joel Osteen. Yup, that Joel Osteen. The prosperity gospel guy with the arena-sized church and that insane mansion. If there's one thing about Katt, he's gonna speak his truth, unfiltered and unbothered. This time he's setting his sights on Osteen and not holding back at all. Katt's not just throwing out insults for shock value either. He's labeling Osteen a full-blown false prophet and says he's got receipts to prove it. From the flashy lifestyle to those feel-good sermons that seem more about bank accounts than the Bible, Katt's calling the whole thing out. Katt Williams reveals everything. See, the Osteen situation fits right into the bigger picture Katt's been painting for years, one where exploitation and performance go hand in hand. According to him, the darkness in Hollywood isn't limited to movies and music. It creeps into every part of society, even religion. Remember how he tore into Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, and Kevin Hart during that Club Shay Shay interview? He wasn't just roasting their punchlines. He was basically accusing them of playing roles to stay in good standing with the powers that be. Katt's whole thing is that these high-powered individuals, whether they're in entertainment or religion, are just performers, actors who've mastered the art of looking real while pushing their own agenda. Now take a second and think about Joel Osteen through that lens. The packed stadium-style church, the feel-good TV sermons, the shelves of bestsellers, the private jets and mansions. Katt's saying it's all part of a carefully crafted character. A persona built to draw people in and rake in the cash. He's not just critiquing the message, he's going after the whole image, questioning whether the flashy charisma and positive vibes are real or just part of a big performance. And honestly, that same pattern he calls out in Hollywood, where it's not about raw talent but about playing the game. Katt's suggesting that exact dynamic is alive and well in the world of megachurches, that it's less about faith, more about fame. According to him, Osteen isn't leading with spiritual purpose, he's maintaining a brand. But this isn't some new hill for Katt to die on. He's been calling out this type of hypocrisy forever. From shady backdoor deals in showbiz to the way people at the top stay there by selling a version of themselves that's easy to digest, he's always said success in those circles often comes with a price. Now he's pointing that same finger at Osteen and saying, "You're no different." Katt's not just challenging Osteen's theology, he's coming for his authenticity. He's pulling back the curtain and asking the hard questions. Is this guy really about God? Or is he about gold-plated living under the guise of gospel? With the NBA arena turned mega church, the book deals, the fan base, the big smile, it all feels more celebrity than servant of God. And that's the core of Katt's argument. Even fans online are jumping into the convo, calling Osteen's public persona all fluff and friendliness, smiling for the cameras while hiding who he really is. Some are saying that the cheerful image is just surface level, and deep down, he's not the kind, good-hearted man he portrays himself to be. One person online didn't hold back, saying, "I am from Texas and never ever cared for Joel. He seemed creepy to me. Constantly having this creepy smile no matter the situation, even when it's inappropriate. I remember in February of this year 2024 when there was a shooting in his church. A 7-year-old was rushed to the hospital and critically injured, and another church parishioner was killed. The press, of course, rushed to the church to talk with Joel Osteen. With police on the scene and people still coming out of the church, Joel spoke with the press and was grinning from ear to ear. I can't tell you the number of Texans that were outraged at his response and lack of soul in the face of this horrific event. I personally don't think he can be trusted." And another person chimed in with, "Isn't Joel Osteen the same guy that wouldn't allow Katrina victims to use his church for shelter because they might get it dirty? I'll never forget that." Katt Williams is making it clear. He's not trying to personally attack Joel Osteen or judge anyone's beliefs. He's not coming for people's faith. But what he is doing is raising some tough, honest questions about the entire setup. He's looking at Osteen's massive platform, his fame, his wealth, the glitzy broadcasts, and asking, is this really what following God is supposed to look like? Like, is this ministry or is this showbiz? Osteen's fake persona. Here's where it gets wild. Katt claims that Osteen has actually admitted to being an actor. The smile, the positive vibes, the polished sermons. It's all a performance. If that's true, it flips the whole thing on its head. We're not just talking about theological disagreements anymore. We're talking about whether the guy's even being real. And if he is acting, Katt asks the deeper question. Who's behind the curtain calling the shots? Who benefits from the illusion? Now let's talk about the prosperity gospel, because Katt's not letting that slide either. He's super vocal about how this faith equals wealth mindset completely distorts the heart of Christianity. He says it's not supposed to be about stacking money or showing off your blessings with flashy cars and huge mansions. Faith, according to Katt, is about gratitude, humility, generosity. He even breaks down tithing, saying it's meant to be an offering of thanks, not some cosmic payment plan to get favors from above. He's straight up calling the prosperity gospel a scam, one that preys on people's hopes, especially those just trying to better their lives. And of course, in his eyes, Joel Osteen is one of the biggest faces of that system. Katt sees him as not just a smooth-talking preacher, but part of a much larger, more dangerous cycle, where religion is being flipped into a money-making empire. He draws the connection to others in the same circle too, like Kenneth Copeland flying around in private jets, Creflo Dollar famously asking for donations to buy one, and Benny Hinn living large in luxury. These guys preach about modesty and sacrifice, but live like celebrities. Katt's not buying it. To him, Osteen isn't an exception. He's right in the middle of a system that profits off of belief. He's putting a spotlight on the hypocrisy. Osteen claims he doesn't take a salary from the church, but he's pulling in millions from books, speaking gigs, and donations, all from followers who are told that giving to him will somehow bless them. Katt's not having it. He's saying the whole thing feels off, like a high-budget production built to look holy, but really designed to cash in. Let's be real. Joel Osteen's been catching side eyes for years, and it's not just from folks who disagree with his sermons. It runs deeper than that. A lot of people feel like something just doesn't sit right with him. They see this polished, ever-smiling televangelist preaching about abundance, success, and divine blessings. And then they look at the extravagant way he lives, multi-million-dollar mansions, designer suits, luxury cars, and it starts to feel a little off. Like, is this what ministry is supposed to look like? See, it's not just the message that's the issue. It's the behavior, especially when things go sideways. One of the biggest, most talked about moments that exposed what a lot of people felt was Osteen's true character happened during Hurricane Harvey in 2017. Houston was underwater. People were being evacuated from their homes. Families were stranded with nowhere to go. And Osteen's massive Lakewood church, a literal former NBA arena, was sitting there closed. Initially, the church claimed it was flooded and couldn't be used for shelter. But then photos surfaced online showing dry hallways and accessible entrances. And once that backlash started gaining traction, once people on social media started demanding answers, magically, the church opened its doors. That wasn't just a PR disaster, it was a defining moment that changed how many people viewed Joel Osteen for good. To a lot of Texans, and to people around the world watching the news unfold, it came across like he was more concerned with protecting his image and property than actually helping those in need. Like, when push came to shove, he didn't jump in to serve. He hesitated. And in moments of crisis, that hesitation speaks volumes. It reinforced this growing idea that Osteen might not be the humble, compassionate pastor he presents himself to be. But it didn't stop there. Fast forward a few years to 2021, and things got even stranger. A plumber, yes, a plumber, was doing repairs at Lakewood Church when he stumbled upon a shocking discovery. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and checks literally hidden inside a wall. Now here's where it gets even more suspicious. Years earlier, Lakewood had reported that a similar amount of money had been stolen. So naturally, people put two and two together and started asking some serious questions. Was this a cover-up? Was there shady business happening behind the scenes? Why was that much money just in a wall? And why was it never found or mentioned until a random plumber stumbled upon it? For many, this just added to the already existing narrative that Joel Osteen isn't just preaching the prosperity gospel, he's living it in a way that's borderline unbelievable. You've got someone who's supposed to be a spiritual leader, someone who teaches about humility and faith, but he's also living like a celebrity mogul. People see that disconnect and it creates a sense of distrust. It's not just skepticism anymore, it's flat-out disbelief. This is why when Katt Williams steps in and starts calling Osteen out, his words land harder. Because it's not like he's starting a new conversation. It's one that's already been bubbling under the surface for years. Katt's just turning up the volume on something people have been whispering about for a long time. He's pointing at the mansion, the jet-set lifestyle, the refusal to open doors during a flood, the shady money-in-the-wall situation, and saying, "Does this really look like a man of God to you?" And it's not just about Osteen individually. It's about what he represents. A system. A brand of faith that seems more like a business model than a spiritual mission. When religion becomes a way to sell books, gather millions, and build personal empires, people are going to question the authenticity behind the pulpit. And Joel Osteen? He's at the very center of that storm. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, things get complicated. Joel Osteen isn't your typical pastor. He's not out in the community doing grassroots outreach, visiting the sick, feeding the hungry, or getting his hands dirty with the people. Instead, he operates like a celebrity. He's on national talk shows, giving motivational speeches, and selling out stadiums like he's on tour. And while motivational speaking in itself isn't a bad thing, a lot of people are saying that his talks sound more like self-help seminars than actual sermons. They ask, where's the scripture? Where's the deep dive into biblical truth? And these aren't just opinions from the general public. Other respected religious leaders, people who have spent their lives studying and teaching the Bible, are calling him out too. They're accusing Osteen of watering down Christianity, stripping away the more challenging and uncomfortable teachings just to make his message more appealing. And that's the issue, because in trying to appeal to everyone, they feel he's lost the heart of the message. His sermons are packed with affirmations and positivity, which again isn't necessarily wrong. But many say they're lacking real theological depth. They're missing the kind of scripture-based teaching that challenges people, that asks hard questions, that deals with sin, sacrifice, and the reality of spiritual growth. Instead, it's a lot of believe in yourself, think positive, and good things are coming. And that kind of sounds more like branding than ministry. That's where Katt Williams steps in with his now viral commentary. He's not just making fun of Joel Osteen, he's raising serious questions. Katt's tapping into something that's been on a lot of people's minds for a long time. Is this guy real? Is Osteen truly a spiritual leader, or is he just playing a role? Katt even goes so far as to say that Joel himself admitted to being an actor, which, if true, is a huge claim. Because if the whole persona is just a performance, then who's directing the show? Who benefits from it? Katt isn't just questioning one man, he's calling out the whole system. He's suggesting that entertainment, politics, and religion are all part of the same machine. That these high-profile figures are all playing parts in a bigger game meant to distract, influence, and, let's be honest, manipulate the public. And according to Katt, guys like Osteen aren't outliers. They're key players in a system that trades hope for profit. It's a pretty bold accusation. But it lands because the doubt is already there. People still remember the Hurricane Harvey scandal, when Osteen's church initially refused to shelter flood victims. They remember the plumber finding hundreds of thousands of dollars hidden in a wall at Lakewood Church. They see the private jets, the mansions, the lifestyle, and they start asking, how does this align with the humility and service that Jesus preached? And so when Katt says Osteen's a performer, people listen, because to many it's not a new idea, it's confirmation of what they already suspected, that the smile, the style, the stadium-sized sermons, they're all part of a carefully curated image. And the goal isn't spiritual transformation, it's branding, it's influence, it's wealth. Katt's message is bigger than just one preacher. He's saying we need to look closer at who's feeding us these messages. Are they shepherds guiding their flock, or salesmen pitching a product? Are they speaking the truth, or selling inspiration? That's the real conversation happening here, and more people are starting to ask the same questions. Katt Williams has sparked some strong reactions, and the range of responses to his comments really highlights just how complex these issues are. On one side, you have people who are fully behind him, praising him for speaking truth to power, especially when it comes to figures like Joel Osteen. They see Katt as a voice for the everyday person, someone who isn't afraid to challenge a system that's often seen as corrupt. They appreciate how he brings Jesus' teachings into his criticism, which really resonates with a lot of people who feel like their voices aren't being heard. But of course, not everyone agrees with Katt's approach. Some believe he's oversimplifying things or being unfair to people like Osteen. And that's completely understandable. These topics are nuanced. Faith, influence, and accountability are complicated, so it's healthy for there to be debate about it. The fact that people are talking about it at all is a good thing, regardless of which side they land on. Katt has always been an outspoken figure, even when it gets him into trouble. Whether he's been blacklisted, made fun of, or even arrested, he continues to speak his mind. That's a quality many admire. Some folks even view him as someone who's brave enough to risk his career for the truth. He seems to be one of the few who is willing to challenge powerful people and institutions, and that's no small feat. People trust Katt because they believe he sees things that others miss, and sometimes his predictions about society seem to come true. He's also not afraid of the backlash. If anything, it seems like he expects it. Katt knows that speaking truth to power often comes with a price, but he's willing to pay it. In the case of Joel Osteen, he's bringing up a conversation that a lot of people shy away from. He's questioning the integrity of religious leaders and how these powerful figures might be manipulating their congregations. He's not handing us all the answers, but he's forcing us to ask some uncomfortable questions. And that's significant. By challenging these figures, he's creating space for people to think critically about the stories and narratives they're being fed. One of the main critiques of Joel Osteen is that despite being called America's nicest preacher, he's not exactly the model of humility people expect from a pastor. It's not about him being rude, but about the content of his message. Critics argue that his sermons follow a formula that feels more like a motivational speech than a genuine spiritual service. Take a look at how he starts his sermons. In this example, he opens with a joke to ease into things. He presents an issue that people face, like ignoring their spiritual guidance. Then he'll pull out a Bible verse out of context. And finally, he gives his audience the solution, often framed in terms of how he lives his life, using himself as a model for others to follow. The criticism of Joel Osteen's teachings really dives deep into the tension between the surface-level positivity he promotes and the more foundational, challenging aspects of Christianity. Critics point out that Osteen's approach to spirituality feels more like a self-help seminar than a sermon. He focuses on personal success, the power of positive thinking, and achieving your goals, but often bypasses the tough topics of sin, repentance, and the consequences of disobedience, topics that are central to traditional Christian teachings. This omission makes his message feel more like a prescription for worldly achievement than a guide to spiritual growth. By emphasizing his own life and achievements as a model to follow, Osteen subtly shifts the focus from God to himself. Instead of pointing people towards faith, grace, and humility, His message can seem to suggest that if you just follow his formula, you can achieve the same level of success. This, critics argue, creates unrealistic expectations, where people feel pressured to measure up to a worldly standard of success, leading to feelings of inadequacy, guilt, and a sense of failure if they don't. Katt Williams, being one of the loudest critics, doesn't hold back. He calls Osteen a fraud, accusing him of using religion as a business, a way to profit off people's faith and desires for a better life. According to Katt, Osteen is not just a performer, but a con artist, deliberately exploiting religious teachings for personal gain. He paints Osteen as someone who's deliberately misleading his followers, using his platform and influence to build a cult-like following rather than offering genuine spiritual guidance. Katt argues that the prosperity gospel is the very essence of the con, and Osteen is at the heart of it. By promoting the idea that God rewards faithfulness with wealth and success, Osteen and others in his circle are pushing a version of Christianity that centers on material gain rather than spiritual fulfillment. In Katt's eyes, this is a scam, a way to take advantage of people who are already vulnerable and searching for hope. As you wrap up this debate, it's clear that Katt's perspective resonates with some, who see it as a necessary challenge to the status quo. The criticism is grounded in a desire for a deeper, more authentic expression of faith, one that's not about building empires or selling books, but about living a life aligned with the true teachings of Jesus. But for others, Osteen's approach is seen as inspiring and accessible, even if it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's a heated discussion, and one that's certainly worth exploring. What do you think about Katt's take on Osteen? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell for more.